Want to spend a few minutes walking you through the four uh, main textbooks required for this course. You'll be reading a few articles, some primary documents, but these four books represent the backbone of the course. And so let me walk you through each one and explain what the book is about and why it's assigned, and so on. The main textbook for the book, for the course, is entitled Waging War. The subtitle is Conflict, Culture, and Innovation in World History. Um, it's by a historian who teaches at the University of North Carolina. His name is Wayne Lee. Uh, he is basically a contemporary of mine, about 10 years younger, a very accomplished military historian, a really nice guy as well. And uh, this book, Waging War, is widely admired as perhaps the best military history textbook to place military history in a global context. For a long time, military historians essentially looked only at the European experience and then the American experience as an offshoot of that European experience. So military history, as it was taught, sort of cranked up with the ancient Greeks, and then came down to World War II and the wars of the Cold War era, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and so on. And military historians really paid very little attention to the fact that that wars and warfare occur all over the world. And this Eurocentrism did not really begin to abate until the turn of the 21st century. And since then, a number of historians had attempted to do world military history textbooks, but it's not an easy thing to pull off. And I think nobody has pulled it off better so far than has Wayne. Wayne's framework is thematic. He goes through historical periods, and he looks at what is going on all over the world at that particular time. And the lens that is prominent in the book are the cultural elements of war and the role of innovation of different kinds, technological innovation, but also other types. We won't be reading the entire book. It cranks up in the Stone Age and it comes down to the present day, but we'll be reading, a pretty good chunk of it. And because, we want to be using sort of the best material at hand, this is why Waging War has been assigned. The second book that's been assigned for the course is undoubtedly going to be a surprise to pretty much everybody. Well, why did I assign it? This is The Willpower Instinct, is the title of the book, and the subtitle, How Self-Control Works, Why It Matters, and What You Can Do to Get More of it. It was written by a psychologist who teaches at Stanford University, and for a number of years, she taught a course on the science of willpower. And basically, she took the fruits of inquiries and experiments by clinical psychologists, concerning willpower. Why do people procrastinate? They really sort of studied it experimentally to determine, why that went on. What helps people to eat better? What inhibits people from eating better? All kinds of things, all kinds of questions like that. And she took sort of the fruits of all of that research and made it accessible to undergraduates and other interested people. And the course, The Science of Willpower, just, all kinds of people wanted to take it. It was tremendously popular. And then she turned it into this particular, book. Well, why am I assigning it? It's a military history course. Well, there's three reasons. The first is that what I want to do is to give you a practical understanding of something about which I feel very strongly, which is that the warrior ethos, which characterizes armed forces the world over, this warrior ethos translates metaphorically into everyday life. And I'll be talking about that more a bit later on. But when you do this personal challenge assignment, where you'll be asked to choose a challenge that is meaningful to you personally, maybe overcoming procrastination, uh, working on weight control, healthy diet, consistent exercise, whatever it is, this book will provide valuable assistance in terms of executing that personal challenge assignment well. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that this is an online course, kind of obvious. And there's now a considerable literature on online courses. Online courses have been taught for quite some time now. And so specialists in education have had a pretty good chance to understand the strengths of online courses, the weaknesses, the potentialities, and so on. And in terms of weaknesses, in terms of vulnerabilities, one of the things that the literature emphasizes over and over again is the impact of procrastination, of student procrastination. And that's no rap on students. All of us tend to procrastinate. And online courses sort of lend themselves to succumbing to this tendency to procrastinate. Because in a face-to-face class, where you've got to to turn up in class on, let's say, Tuesday at 12:45 and go on through to 2:05. This is the schedule I typically had when I taught face-to-face classes. Well, then twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, in the example that I'm offering, you have to show up. You can skip class and so forth, but you have to show up at those times, and so that prevents you from procrastinating, at least not as much. With an online course, particularly an asynchronous online course, you are working at your own pace, according to your own schedule, within certain limits, and the tendency is frequently, I don't have to, to watch this presentation right now or do this presentation right now. I can do it later. And what happens is you end up doing it so much later that you're in a rush at the end of each week to read over everything in order to pass the quiz. There's 2 quizzes each week, but they're low stakes quizzes, and so if they're the only things that are going to keep you from procrastinating if you're determined to do other things, and they're just not enough to arrest that tendency to procrastinate. And what is going to happen down the line is you're going to find yourself having to cram, for the midterm examination and for the final examination, both of which comprise the majority of your grade for the course. And then the procrastination pattern is going to, wreck your chances of doing well in the course. And it isn't enough, I think, to sort of exhort undergraduates not to procrastinate. It seems to me that we have a responsibility to equip you as students with tools to help you avoid procrastination. And one of these things is to understand the sources of procrastination. We all have our reasons, for doing it. It's not a failure of character. There are just strong tendencies that are almost hardwired into us that push us in the direction of procrastination. Well, if we understand the sources of that procrastination, and if we learn specific proven techniques for overcoming procrastination, of making better use of the willpower that McGonagall contends is, is in us. We just need to mobilize it. Well, we do the if we do these things, if you do these things, then you're going to do better with the course. You're going to do better, and you're going to be under less stress, because people just are under less stress when they stay on top of their game. The point at which people get really stressed out is when they feel like they're behind the eight ball, but when they're running late on things. So that's the second reason to assign the willpower instinct, because it's in the context of the fact that this is an online course. The third reason is this. You're my students in the sense that it is my responsibility to teach you, in this case, about warfare and world history during a particular period. But you are also my students in the sense of being human beings that I care about. And all of you have stresses in your life, things that are going on, challenges that can be major. There's a lot going on in your lives anyway. There's dealing with the study component of being at a university, but there is also the social component. There is also sort of the search for meaningful relationships, and the excitement that can bring, and the anxiety, the frustration, the sense of loss. All of these things are going on with you. There's a search that's still ongoing for your identity, for a sense of who you are. There is concern about what you're going to do when college life is over. There's all kinds of things that are going on, in the lives of undergraduates, just inherently. And this recording is being made in January 2022, in the midst of a very dangerous pandemic that so far has taken the lives of almost 850,000 Americans, and in the coming year is going to take the lives of hundreds of thousands more. And that reality has created an unusually high level of mental and emotional stress on everybody. But I think particularly undergraduates, and for very good reasons. And so, because you matter to me, in terms of my students as people, as human beings who I care about, I wanted to give you something that would help you deal better with emotions, or with factors that affect your mental and emotional health. And so the willpower instinct is designed for that purpose. So 3 purposes in all: to tap the warrior ethos, to work against the procrastination that's inherent in online courses, and also simply to help you as human beings. I think that as a professor, I have that responsibility to my students to help them in those ways, as well as ways that are sort of more or less purely intellectual. The third book that we're reading for the course is entitled The Military Revolution, Military Innovation and the Rise of the West, 1500 to 1800. And one of the main themes of this course is that the period in which we're studying is the period in which Europe and its offshoots, ultimately the United States, Australia, other places that Europeans colonized and then became independent. This is the period in which Europe and its offshoots, collectively known as the West, came to dominate the rest of the world. By 1914, Europeans controlled, by dint of direct colonial control or by dint of having created what are called settler societies like the United States of America. The West controlled 80% of the world's land surface area. And that tremendous degree of domination, military domination, but also political domination, economic domination, there has to be an explanation from that. And that explanation comes from the changes, the military innovations that occurred from the tail end of the 16th, from the 16th century into the 17th century and on into the 18th century. And this is all very well set forth and analyzed by Jeffrey Parker, who teaches right here at The Ohio State University. He's in the Department of History. He is a prolific historian. He is world renowned, and nobody knows this subject, the military revolution, better than Professor Parker does. You will find that this book, The Military Revolution, is rich in ideas, and at the same time, very clearly explained, very lucidly written, and almost really a pleasure to read, even if you're not, at first blush interested in the military revolution. I think that you will find that you will be. So that's the third book that's going to be required for the course. The fourth one is entitled The Art of Warfare in the Age of Napoleon, by the late Gunther E. Rothenberg, who was really one of the premier historians of the Napoleonic wars for a number of decades. It is a relatively short book. It was written specifically with undergraduates in mind. It represents the sort of the culmination of a lifetime of study of the Napoleonic wars. So it is deeply informed and at the same time quite lucidly and accessibly written. So there are the four books: Waging War, The Willpower Instinct, The Military Revolution, and The Art of War in the Age of Napoleon. So I'm going to cease this recording now, and just let you know, good luck with the course. I hope you enjoy it.